I'd like to call the meeting to order, the Board of Leavenworth County Commission. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take this time to offer a moment of silence, and I've actually got some comments on that I was being selfish for asking for prayer for just the Leavenworth County Commission. We should pray for all of our elected officials and our emergency response people.
Yes, that should be great.
All right, now begin a moment of silence.
And our teachers.
Don't let me forget that.
Yeah, you better not forget that. Yeah.
Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. We'd like to start out with public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address. Seeing none, we'll move on to administrative business. Do we have any administrative business this time, Mr. Lawfrey, Mr. Van Perry's?
I don't have
None at this time. I guess I got one question. You know, we had a pretty lengthy discussion the other day on the sales tax proceeds and the projects and different things. 2014-41, do you have that? Do you remember that resolution, Commissioner? It basically lists the 3 road projects.
I think we already basically made the same thing.
Right, but I'm just saying is there's nothing in there that shows any money going anywhere else, really, other than that. Do you agree?
We do have a work session scheduled for that.
Okay.
Items that we discussed. We have a work session scheduled next Thursday at 9:45.
Yeah.
To go over
Okay.
the sales tax, where we're at with the projects.
Which I was going to bring that up at that
Okay.
time.
Well, like I said, I just want to make sure. I guess what I was asking, there's no other resolution
No.
since it,
No,
correct?
no.
Okay. All right, and we'll move on. As commissioners had a chance to look at the minutes.
I have, and I'll make a motion for approval.
Got a motion, got a second?
Second.
Voting? Aye.
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 All right, and then I got some OCBs also.
Motion to approve the chairman to
Second.
sign and date the OCPs as stated.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Okay, and have you had a chance to look at the agenda? It got updated just recently. Pretty lengthy.
Do I have an updated copy? I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Voting? Aye.
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 I did want to talk about the agenda for 1 second. Can I?
Okay, yes, sir.
No, I shouldn't say 1 second.
No,
For what
I know what you meant.
I'm looking at Tuesday. And of course, my original statement, how we're looking at Tuesday and our new meeting dates
Mm-hmm.
and time. And I see 8 o'clock, 11:15, 12:15, that's once a month.
That's correct.
So if we do what Mark or David, I don't know,
Just rotate today.
just rotate that day, open up all week or vote out or what you think is the best, and we'll do that one Tuesday.
The last week of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I had brought up is the potential to maybe do 1 week, you have your day meeting, and then the next week you do an evening meeting, and then make sure it alternates to where it would impact that particular week. That'd be something we could put together.
At the same time, looking at the consent agenda, so we're not,
Next week, we will start with the consent agenda for the board to review and to see if it's something
Okay.
that's the format that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So we will start with that next week. And then, is there a directive as far as the board goes from when you'd like to see us start looking at the Tuesday meetings, or do you want to schedule more time to talk about that?
I think Mr. Klemp referenced January 1.
no, we had discussed and January 1, I like it earlier than that because January 1, you know. And the main thing I looked at is all the Mondays, not the main thing. So many Mondays have the holiday. And if you're going to Tuesday, you know, the staff has time to prepare, or there's a whole bunch of factors that could enter in there. So I'd like to see it done sooner than that. I'd like to see it done in November so we can see how it's going to run. Maybe in January we're going to go back to the old way, but I don't think we should or could, or we'll look at it that way. There's just, you know, I'm looking at this agenda for next week, and I'm looking at Thursday, and planning and zoning case number, case number, case number, case number. And if it's an 8-0 vote by the planning board, and we're not taking their suggestion, then let's get rid of the planning board. We're wasting, excuse me, I'm going to bring this up again, we're wasting planning board's time, okay? If we're not going to listen to our boards, there's no reason to have a board. That's sort of like passing speed laws and not enforcing them. If we're not going to enforce the speed laws, let's go to the Autobahn, and they can go 150 miles an hour if you got a car that'll do that, and we can get on down the road, okay? But if we're not going to enforce the rules, there's no sense having rules. Probably not hearing me, but that's all right. So I'd like to see it done sooner than that, or what we can agree to.
Well, I think December, if we started in December, that would give us some time to see it when we, yearly, we visit it anyways in
Right.
January. So,
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if Bob does.
we'll talk about it on our, that's just my thought. I mean, just think about it, I guess, and then we'll be, when we do
Okay.
discuss it in a meeting.
1st of December, is that when you want to do it?
Well,
Okay.
we'll listen to Mark's report, I mean,
Okay,
what he presents to us, and then we'll decide.
okay, sounds
All
good.
right, all right. Are we ready for, Willie, buildings and grounds? You're looking well today, Trevor.
Thank you.
We did do our fence viewing, commissioners, last Friday. Trevor got through it,
Very good.
so I guess we'll need to get together and meet on that.
So will we get a report back? on
Yeah,
that?
we gotta get together. But anyway, all right, what you got, Trevor?
Asking for award for the renovating the jail visitation area. We worked with Trainer Architects and come up with some plans for the new attorney-client rooms over there. We solicited contractors. We advertised 11 more times on the county website and in the plan room. And Philco Construction out of Kansas City, Missouri came in as a low bid for $82,920. So we're asking permission to go with them.
I've got a question maybe for Janet. It says non-budgeted item with additional funds requested. I could have swore, Doug, that we talked about this in the budget.
Budgeted.
And it was budgeted.
About it during the budget process, and it was decided that we would use funds from the old sales tax. We designated back actually $200,000. If you remember, I went down, we reviewed the question, I reviewed it with council, and that was an allowable expense out of the old sales tax funds.
Right.
And that's where we designated it out of there. It was not put into the sheriff's budget.
So it wasn't put into the sheriff's budget?
No.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you, and then I was going to ask Andy, but you answered both questions at the same time. I would say motion to approve.
Well, I wanted to mention something on that because, and then I'll second that motion, Bob.
Okay.
I've got a sheet here of bond and principal, the money we're paying that we haven't utilized. And I'm looking at Eisenhower Road, insignificant, it's not important. Nothing important about Eisenhower Road because McIntyre is more important. 147th is more important. Eisenhower's not important. We kicked $5 million down to Tonganoxie. And actually, if you take 80% that was given to chicken pluckers, there's probably another couple million there that we lost, which is all right, because people didn't want it. But that's another couple million out of the 80%. We got to figure out how we're going to spend money here. I don't know how much of that $5 million can be gotten back from Tonganoxie, but it's time to start looking at some of these things.
Janet, do you know when the payment from Tonganoxie is due and when they do make the payment?
On the
We're talking
turnpike?
about the
Yeah.
1.5 million.
Yeah, on the turnpike.
On the turnpike, yeah.
Of course, I was referring to the $5 million
Yeah.
we gave them.
Not
Right.
on the industrial park.
Right.
Yeah,
But
The city of Tonganoxie will be making that payment probably within a couple of weeks. It's always due before the 1st of December, and it is a $100,000 payment.
right.
In 2019, we still have the balloon payment of $500,000.
500,000,
Right.
yeah. But, is that what you're talking about,
that's
the
what I
balloon
was
payment?
talking, yeah, the balloon payment,
Well,
500,000.
we went
And
from...
neither one of us was here when that payment schedule was set up, so I
Yeah.
can't
That's
answer.
right. We went from A to B. Mine is on the $5 million.
Right.
I guess I can answer maybe some of your question on giving the 5 million to
Right.
Tonganoxie. That was to develop their industrial park.
Mhm.
I did not plan on giving the money to them only by project.
Right.
So whatever was left over after that project was done would come back to the county. But that's not the way it was presented or voted on.
Yeah, see, and that's what's bothering me.
Right.
Eisenhower's going to have a industrial park developed.
Mm-hmm.
And so somewhere down the line, we're going to have to close it down. And we don't have in the figures, if I look into the figures, I don't see anything here for the business loss for Storage Box Inc. And that's totally unimportant. We don't care about Storage Box. Why should we worry about it, you know? That's a private business.
I hope it's paying taxes.
Oh my God, is it paying taxes? I've talked to the owner, and she told me she is tired of paying those taxes, not getting anything in return. Now, you know, the average taxpayer out there, do they really care about Storage Box? No, they can afford it. Well, the legislature went to all the homeowners and said, hey, we're going to screw, okay, politely, all small businesses, because we're going to keep them at 25%. And we're going to lower the home to 11.5. We're going to go to 12 first, and then we'll do the system again, and we'll go to 11.5. But we'll keep these businesses at 25%. Now, is that a proper way to handle your small businesses, which everybody says are the largest employers in the nation? So I don't like the fact that we're shutting down Eisenhower, and we're talking about 2019 or maybe 2020, not for me, but for the industrial park and 20th Street, which is a major traffic way now. So I'd like to see, is there any way we can get the money back from Tonganoxie that they haven't spent? We just go around handing out $5 million here, $5 million there. Pretty soon we can put it up for bid, you know. There has to be something here. If we get a certain amount back, maybe we can go ahead with Eisenhower, because the system has to change and take care of the business.
I think,
We're going ahead with Eisenhower.
yeah. I think
It's in the
too,
design and property acquisition and all that.
Yeah, we're going to have to borrow money, which is,
Well, according to the resolution, it said to bond up to 40 million.
yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But you also brought up the subject of how many, we'd paid 750,000.
763. Yeah.
I want to correct that. 763,000 in interest. And if you look at the pay sheet here, 16, 17, you know, interest at 236 in 2016, 2017, it was 252,000, you know, somewhere, again,
Yeah,
we're talking about money.
we are, and I think by going out or doing these projects right now, the money we saved on what the engineers' estimates were is significant.
Well, to help, but we
Yeah.
still don't have the money to start
At least,
icing.
no, we don't have the money to
No.
do Eisenhower,
No.
but we have access.
So it's going to be.
According to the resolution, we can,
We
It's
still
gonna be-
bonded.
Yeah, but it's going to be under us. So when do we need the millions that we're going to need to
And
do
I-
Eisenhower?
I think as soon as property acquisition and design's done, we'll have that answer.
Well, I stopped by and talked to Ed and Betty the other day, and most of the people that are involved in the community, I'm going to say most, not all, there's the feelings you got to have for the Schoenbecks.
Yes, sir?
Now, the house next to them, no, you don't have to have it. You got to have some feelings. And the properties across the road are mainly, what do you call them, properties, investment now, or nobody's
Right.
living, I don't know what it is. And all of a sudden, and I talked about this the other day with somebody, how all the design codes for dresses and pants and suits come in from the East Coast and the West Coast and gets here about 10 years later. And that's good. That's why we, Leavenworth and Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, we are what protect the system. We don't want a roundabout because the city doesn't want a roundabout. Just got back from Norway, Sweden, Denmark. I've never seen so many roundabouts. Now, the city doesn't want a roundabout. I don't know why they don't want a roundabout, and I really don't want to get into too much discussion about a roundabout, because the only thing wrong with the roundabout is like everything else that's bad on the roads. It's we, the idiot drivers. Now, if that hurts your feelings, I can't help it. But I've seen the biggest violators in school zones are ladies dropping their kids off, and then they go out there about 100 miles an hour. There's nothing wrong with a roundabout. It's only critical at 2 times during the day, and that is on, I'm gonna throw out the hour, 7 o'clock, we'll say, for those going to Kansas City and those coming from Kansas City, and let's say 5 o'clock at night, those to and from again. I don't understand. That is the most economical way, and I'd like to see an engineering report rather than the emotions of Leavenworth, because the emotions of Leavenworth bring in 5 city commissioners that talk to other people, and that's fine. That's what they're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, we want to go to a traffic signal, and you want to talk about delays. Let's get a report on that, and we tell Leavenworth what we're going to do. This is our money again. This isn't Leavenworth's money. We want to do what's best for the community of going to work, and part of that community is Fort Leavenworth. And we know what the stoplight does up there at Eisenhower and Muncie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you
they're
do.
going
If you're
to-
going to have a stoplight there, you're going to have a problem. That should be a roundabout. Lansing, I don't know what they want to do, but that was just a subject that we need to have somebody come up with some answers rather than, we're always saying, well, the engineer said this, or this department outside world said this. So I think we need to get that in and have City of Leavenworth come up and explain in detail, and they're not going to bring friends of the city who want the stoplight.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Commissioner Hall?
I just have one question, or not question, one comment. I have an article on the roundabouts, and I would like to give you a copy of it.
Good.
You'll really appreciate the copy.
Okay. And I'll read it because I just.
I'll put it in your inbox.
Yeah. appreciate it. But you're wanting to know.
But back on Eisenhower, I believe Public Works has already held a meeting with all the property owners, I believe. Is that true, Sarah? Did you guys have a meeting? Yeah. So they're working on it.
Mm-hmm, okay.
And yeah, of all the property owners out there, I do sympathize with the Schirmbecks because they had to go through the 20th Street project, and now we're going to have to go through the Eisenhower project.
Right.
And hopefully we can work around all that.
That's true. Hopefully we can.
So, I mean, I think that's everybody's goal.
But we can go as far south as we need to go.
And then you get into the water district's pump station there.
Well, it's down there, but.
It's down there a ways, but
Yeah.
it's, it's something to look at.
Something to definitely look at because,
I think it's being looked at pretty hard. I think nobody wants to go in there and
Rip out their
take
pumping
any more
station.
property than we have to have.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, as far as I know, Eisenhower is on track.
so to get back on the original issue of the sheriff and this bill.
Well, we were talking about sales tax money,
Yeah.
and that's good. We have leftover sales tax.
But it's nice to have it still in the budget to where you're looking at it and it says, sheriff wants this for the benefit of the county, and we're taking that out of the old sales tax. And, there's theoretically $2 million sitting there. And luckily we had that $2 million sitting there because we had the road that fell apart.
Yes, sir.
And that cost us a hunk. We had a bridge. we
Actually,
had to
two
do.
places that fell
And
apart.
there's $500,000 sitting there still. And that's why I don't like slush funds, and that's what they are, because I think it was 1994, up until that time, we'd always done budgets. And at the end of the year, there was no pay increase. Everybody would be approached. Is there any money in the sheriff's department for pay raise? Now, let me look at it. Is there any money in the clerks? You'd have 26 department heads come back and say, yeah, we think we can afford a 2% pay raise. So we had it changed. We gave the pay raise only for a couple of years, and then we wanted to get back into the slush funds. We had it changed so where if you could pocket enough money through other items in your budget, you could then pay for the pay raise. And that's what this is to me. If you have an emergency and you need to replace the air conditioners on the judicial center and you don't have the money, I guess in this case, you do. You have the false pride because, we set it aside. You can go to the state, and it's called a no-fund warrant, put there for a reason. I don't think the city of Leavenworth has ever used it. I don't think the county has ever used it. And you go and say to the Department of Revenue, we need $1.5 million because the air conditioners have failed at the judicial center. So you go to them, they said, oh my gosh, yes, you can't have those prisoners over there without air conditioning, even though Sheriff Joe did it out in Arizona. So we can't do that, so they approve it. We go down to the bank, we get our $1.5 million, and we put it on the tax rolls the next year, rather than us keeping your money in a slush fund here there's $500,000 left in sales tax from the last sales tax. That has to stay there. We can't use that for anything else. But to have all these other slush funds, there's $200,000, I guess, where we're going to take this out of.
Mm-hmm.
But it should have been somehow recognizable in the budget that this was coming along. Not picking on the sheriff in this case. Other departments have done it in the past. We just need to know ahead of time, in my opinion, rather than a clerk comes in and says, yeah, we got 200,000 there, and we'll take, how much it is? There's one in here, 82. 82.9, so let's call it 83. So now we have 117,000 left that we can do for other projects. So I just think it is a better idea. So I'll second your motion, Bob. I like it.
Well, I've got another question.
Yeah.
So you consider when we, like you said, the Justice Center just got a new roof. Now that roof is on a depreciation schedule. Money is set aside every year toward that. Do you
Yep.
consider that a slush fund?
No, I consider that Louis Klemp was one of the ones that originated that way back when. But
Okay, that's what I was gonna
But that
point
slush,
out, but-
that slush fund has been violated
Right.
by the first, I think, the first administrator, theoretically. We need to redo yours, and we need to re-qualify what David is now, you know, to get a definition of what your job is, not financial officer, and I don't know what David's is. But, no, that is not a slush fund. That is a good approach, but it's like Social Security, right? My mother would have got $4,000 a month rather than $350 a month until the legislature went in there and started borrowing this money for all of their dreams, not for us that were putting the money in there. So that's all I'm
No,
saying.
I'm just saying, when you schedule an amortization
Right.
schedule, I mean, I don't like to use the word depreciation, that sounds
Yeah.
more like an IRS.
Yeah, that's true. I
An
like that.
amortization schedule on large purchases, I mean, the building itself should, you know,
Why wasn't that done back?
I can't
I don't know,
answer
I wasn't
that,
there.
but we are, every time we make
Mhm.
major purchases, they're on an amortization schedule.
And that's good. But that was started back in 95 or 94, and then it was
Yeah.
stopped for some reason.
Yeah, but it's going pretty good. But anyway, I guess
Yeah.
we're kind of getting off track here.
Nothing wrong with off track.
Oh, I know, it's a good
This-
discussion. It's a good discussion.
My favorite lady sitting back here in the corner again, and that's why I like to
Okay,
show appreciation for people coming. They need to know what's going on up here.
that's right. That's right. I'm glad they come.
Yeah,
So I guess are you going to second?
I'm going second.
All right. Are we ready for the second, Commissioner?
I'm going to vote now. All right.
You voting?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Sheriff didn't know he's going to get dinner and a show, did he?
Thank you.
Thank you. We have anything else before us?
We didn't ask the judge to talk.
Yeah. Well, we could have.
Yeah.
We could have asked him to rule on it.
Yeah, we could ask him to rule on it. He
Oh,
wouldn't.
I'm glad he took time out of his schedule to be here.
Yes. that-
We have anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Nope,
Nope. You got more?
got more.
All right. Sorry, guys.
I like going through the administrator. Always have like that. I'd like to know why the locks. And I guess there was a recent situation that happened, which I'm not going to volunteer that person to talk unless they want to, in the HR department. Why the locks, curtain. Now, I understand the treasurer's office, because I don't even like going in the treasurer's office, because they do treasure things there without putting out to the rest of the world what they do in there. But I do not like the locks on there where, and I know we're going to hear that records are in there. You know, records don't mean a thing. We're keeping them safe. When did Mr. Bixby possess that information that he took down to Channel 41? Does anybody know that? Anybody on staff?
I don't think anybody could say that it was a definite date,
Was-
but he was required to sign it, so I'm assuming at that time he kept a copy for himself.
Yeah, I think he took a signed copy down there.
So he did
Well,
that?
he did, because you can, if you watch the report, the signatures are on there.
So he got that report before he left office? not
Right.
after.
That would be my assumption,
Well, we don't, Mark,
yes. I know what you're gonna say.
you're my administrator. I don't want assumptions. I know what assumptions do. And I'm relying on you to be the lifeblood of administrating our policies.
Sure.
So, and now he's claiming that he's a civilian. And he didn't have any obligation to keeping the record safe. Is there nothing that we can look at legality-wise for him having violated a common sense rule? Because that is one leak. And I personally feel that the leak that came out of that, the individual did not handle it properly, because I'd sued the county for everything they had. I wouldn't have come up with a minor, okay, that we'll just pay him this and this, and he'll go on and be happy, or she'll go on and be happy, however that individual was. I think it's in poor taste, because that isn't the only leak. There's been another major leak since then. And that will all come out in courts, I'm sure. But it's a shame that Harry Truman, sitting in the Human Resource Office, is not willing to take the buck stops there. Because that's where the buck stops. And if somebody is violating that rule or that policy, then it needs to be followed through with at that time. And I don't care if it's that department, the Human Resource, or if it's Public Works. If there's violations going on, that needs to be taken care of. Because that's what the taxpayers are interested in, a government that runs for them. And I'm not seeing that. So I'm just curious why the locks are still on there, and if it takes a motion, I want to do a motion to have those locks removed. And I really don't want a study, because the records are in there, they're in file cabinets. You have people in there that could leak them, and we've found that's true at the federal level, the state level. They asked me for my social security number the other day, and I'm thinking, why do they need that for? Why don't they just go online? It's probably out there. What was it, 104 million people had their social security number violated the other day. It was in the news. Of course, we don't know whether it's good news or bad news. So I would, are we needing a motion to get that done? I'm going to give a motion. I want the locks and the curtain removed from the HR office ASAP, which means immediately.
So, I just want to interject a couple of things here. One, that doesn't sound like a policy. If we want to adopt a policy against blinds on windows and locks on doors, I think that'd be appropriate for the board to consider a policy like that. I wouldn't recommend it, but that would be a policy. Singling out an individual department in public, I don't think is right. We've done it several times, and I don't think it's right.
Well, we can't do that to the treasurer.
But the idea that there isn't information in there at any given moment that shouldn't be immediately visible is wrong. They're working on payroll. They have new hires that are in there processing paperwork. To just leave the door open, I mean, it needs to be in a secure area. We don't have the room in the courthouse where we can isolate them back into offices where they could lock it, and then have the open area, which would be the ideal situation. I'd love it if they could walk in and have a screening area, and then they could go back into the secure area, but we don't have that.
Yes, we do in that office.
We have one office back there.
No, you got two.
Well, one is a file room.
So you could move all the records back into the one office.
Again, I think there's other things that need to be discussed, and I don't think that hashing that information out in open session is doing us any good at this point. And I know we've had some issues that we have addressed, in my opinion. But to continue to, I don't want to say pick on, but to continue to call out one department individually in public is just not right. And I understand what you're saying. I get it that it would be nice to have a little easier access to them, and I'd like to work with them on how we can secure the files and other information in a way so that people can walk into that office. But until we have the time to do that, I would not recommend removing the lock from the door and allowing just anybody to walk in there at any time. Again, because my information can be laying out there. Yours, you were just down there doing your well, you were up here, but you did your orientation, and like you said, they have your social security number. While they're entering that into the system, it's sitting right there on the desk. So I just want to,
You know,
I just want to caution us before we take action.
if there's another place where there ought to be security, and maybe you haven't been there long enough, in the world long enough, I don't know, would be the appraiser's office. Because you talk about people coming in mad, that is a place where there is some potential. So let's put a lock and key on down there.
Well, I think it would be nice if we could work on it. And I know one thing that we are working on, and it's into next year's budget actually, is the system, lock systems, and using fobs and having some remote access for that exact reason, because society's changing to the point where people come in and there's no longer that respect for each other, where people would just come in and go cuckoo. And I've worked in a location that you didn't have access to any office unless you're an employee, and even then you had to have a reason to be in that, or we limited the access. And,
Right.
that's unfortunate. I also worked in an area where you could walk into anybody's office, which was nice. But we just are past that point. People are coming in, like you just said, angry. They don't, for some reason, they're okay with confronting people, and sometimes verbally and physically. And I would love to be able to, and I know the Register of Deeds office is not necessarily one that's controversial, but again, you have direct access to employees in a section of the building where nobody's
Sure do.
around. I'd love to see us be able to do some modifications to the courthouse to where we can have that kind of the access like the treasurer's office has, where you have a window between you and the general public as they're doing business with you, in case they get heated and it goes to the level that we don't want it to. I'd like to see that for every office. Clerk's office is another example.
How about removing just the curtain?
I don't think that's unreasonable, so that they can see people coming up and whatnot. I don't think that's unreasonable, but again, probably not a policy. Something that I will discuss with them to make sure before we take any action that there's a reason. And sometimes, you know, we have people who are going in there for confidential reasons. Maybe they have a health issue or something they need to talk about FMLA, they need to talk about their supervisor. And when they have to sit in that office and wait with the curtain and everybody's staring right at them, sometimes it's uncomfortable. So, but I will talk to them. And we'll work on the layout of that office so that we can make sure that information is not out where everybody can see it, and then we can talk about whether it's or not. But
Well, we still got $117,000 left over from the last sales tax. I guess we can dig in part of that.
I think there's some opportunity there too. But you bring up a very good point about access, and that our employees should have access to the staff that they need the access to, and the general public should, but it needs to be in a safe environment for our staff and for. And so, as we work on the locks next year, I think that's the first step, and then I think maybe the next step would be, as what we're talking about here, which is maybe some secure windows. And I would like to see that.
How do we handle the commissioners?
That's
I
a
like
great.
some security, you know, I feel.
Well, I honestly, and not to, again, it's never a good idea to talk about security concerns in public, but I have expressed that very issue with our office, and that oftentimes, I mean, you guys are not here full time, so
Right.
there's sometimes there's 1 or 2 people in that office, and again, it's in an isolated area of the building. It's a big office, and it's just not a good situation where somebody could come in there angry and
That's
nobody
right.
would even know they were in there. So that's what we're working.
They come right in that door.
Well, they come right in our front. I I mean, in here, this is, I know what you're talking about here, but this is at least a public meeting, and there's several of us in here. I'm talking about an individual employee who might be in an area by themselves, and that's what I'm most concerned.
That's true. It could be an irate taxpayer coming into this meeting and we vote,
Could be a zoning issue, could be.
meat plant, a chicken plant, a pork plant,
We're,
and they're gonna be in a bad mood.
we have a great, we have a great community and a great county. We've been very fortunate that we have good citizens, and we haven't gotten to that issue, but there are a lot of meetings that are conducted throughout the county, or not this county necessarily, but throughout the metropolitan area, where they now have an armed officer at every meeting, because things have happened. So,
Right.
I mean, you just have to watch the news, you see it happening. Happened in the guy came in to argue about his taxes, and just here in the last month, I think it was, and shot a tax officer in his office.
Right, and it doesn't do any good to have that sheriff deputy there. Because that'd be the first one gone. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? If
Well,
not, we need to get on down the road.
The file cabinets are locked, right? That have records.
The file cabinets are locked. They're in a locked room, but there are documents that are out as we're doing processing, as we
Mhm.
bring people in. It's that information is out there, and it's one of the reasons to have the door locked is so that if somebody comes to the door, they can cover up anything that's at the front desk here that they're entering into the system that might be confidential. I mean, that's the concern. The curtain is more of a privacy for employees who are coming in there that maybe don't want people to know they're in there.
The stuff you handed out the other day, was it confidential?
You mean in the executive session?
Executive session?
Yes, I think that would be.
Okay. One county commissioner decided he wasn't going to return it to you. Now, what's he use that for? He takes it home, leaves it here? I don't know what he does with it. What was his intent of keeping it? Was it his intent to keep it, to leak to somebody else? Or to disseminate to somebody else? I don't know. He didn't say, did he? Just said, I'm not going to give it to you. I think that's bad. So, you know, it can leak out up here amongst the three of us. Hopefully we're honorable enough not to leak information. Like I mentioned, going into executive session, I doubt if I'm going to be going into too many more, because I'm not going to allow the leakage, the potential leakage. So,
Commissioner Klemp, would you be willing to go into an executive session in the future to discuss building security?
you can't secure this building.
Well, it's a blanket policy. I mean,
Yeah, we got 7 doors.
well, I'm talking about
Yeah.
building security as a reason to go into executive session, and we could discuss certain, and any of your concerns, I guess, at that time, and maybe with the Buildings and Grounds Director, that he could come up with some ideas, and Mr. Lawfrey. Would that be?
We will bring it up at that time. I don't know whether I'd be willing to or not, because I've already researched.
I know, but
You know how many doors we have here, and you gotta keep the handicap open. So we're gonna put an officer or 2 down there. You gotta keep one of the other entrances open, so we'll put an officer there. And the other ones we can secure to a degree, but you cannot secure going out. You can only secure coming in.
Mhm.
And if anybody didn't watch the movie in New York where the principal put a chain on the door,
Mhm.
he got his little tush in trouble because somebody wanted to get his little tush in trouble. So, bring it up at time, and I'll have rethought it, and I'll go one way or the other.
Well, thank you. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm just glad to know that the file cabinets are locked with
So-
personal information.
Yeah.
And like I said, my only concern is how many other personnel, how much more information is out there on other employees. I mean, we got 400 employees here that
Mhm.
are risking maybe getting their identity stolen. I myself have been a victim of that the last year for some reason. But-
Well, I'm glad it happened to you. Because that means
Happened
I'm
to me
second.
too.
I'm second. Did you release that information?
Did I release what
On Doug?
information? No.
That's not what I meant. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you had credit card or something.
Let me put a plug in for LifeLock. Everyone should belong to LifeLock.
I do.
Yes, sir. Could you state your name and address?
Stephen Myers, 22249 219th Street. So you had a breach of security. Have you warned all your employees about your faulty record safekeeping?
I know we did not.
Should you be paying for LifeLock for them, since Mr. Holland's continuing to take documents that he shouldn't be?
No, that's
I'm not
not
aware of, I'm not aware of anybody, well, I just got aware of Commissioner Holland said his identity was compromised as well as mine. I'm not aware of any other employee. I guess maybe we should ask if any employee's identity's been compromised recently, I guess.
Well, I think that takes it outside the realm of Leavenworth, that it isn't being done.
Well, and that's what that's what I said. I mean, it can be anything. I mean, it's not that. I don't think, I mean, wasn't there recently a big breach on some company that,
I think Mark referenced it.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the last 4 years, I've been notified by the Department of Defense that my personal information has been breached at least 3 times.
Yeah.
And that's supposedly our most secure branch of government, Department of
Yeah,
Defense.
now they're even talking about a
So,
credit card like, instead of a social security card, because that's worthless. You take a credit card and you put the little chip in there and supposedly that and all that. But we're mainly interested in stuff that is leaking out of Leavenworth County.
That's correct.
The other breaches, they take place all the time.
right?
By the millions, so. Okay.
All right.
But that didn't answer his question. Do we need to do that?
if we
Right.
become aware of any breach
Yeah.
of information, we obviously
The
would
administrator.
notify the employees. And we're not aware of any other than
Yeah.
the recent.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have many other items, but that's all right, I'll bring them up one at a time. I just, things that we're talking about, hadn't done, what's coming up.
Well, it was a light day, so I'm glad you brought it up. Now, next Thursday, if you bring up a bunch of stuff, we might have a problem.
You gonna cut me off?
Well, we got a pretty big schedule.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Commissioner Flint did have a motion on the floor.
Oh. Are you,
I said, do we need a motion? Are you, is there
you
anybody?
didn't make, I thought he said, do I need a motion? I'll make a motion if I need to or something.
I think he made the motion.
Or did you make the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Made a motion.
so you can either second or it dies a lack of motion. That's it. We don't wanna get emotional over this.
Given what Mark said, I don't think I could second that at this time.
I couldn't second it
But
either.
Mark's going to check into it, and
Okay.
then maybe after Mark checks into it, maybe your motion.
When's he gonna get back? That's what I find in
All right.
everything we do. It's no getting back. We're waiting and waiting, and that's why.
Would Monday be,
Well, in fact, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Louis, did you get your information on 179th Street?
oh, you talking about this deal?
No, I got my copy, which I'm thankful for. I think Mark got that for me and
Which
was
one
in
is
my
that?
inbox. That's the
This was that
PRP
PRP
program.
list.
But that's the
That
new
was the old
PRP. No, that's not the old one.
No, I didn't get
No.
to see, that's what I say.
You didn't
You
get that?
got, it's in your.
You can have it.
Yeah, that's the new PRP program.
Yeah, that's the new, but I was
Right.
wanting the list for the
Old
old that was
is what he was
supposedly
wanting.
destroyed, and there were a lot of kickapoo roads up there.
There was a lot, yeah, but
There
they
was
died for lack
Well,
of
I
donations, wasn't it?
remember I took Coffin Road off there, wasn't it, or
Yeah,
what?
159th Street.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason I did is because once you get to looking at that road, it borders the government. Do you think the government's going to give up easements so that we can put a road in?
I don't know, I haven't talked to the mayor lately.
Well, yeah, but since then, though, Public Works has changed the standard.
Right.
where we can
Now,
do
since we've
existing
changed the
riding.
standard, we could probably put that back on the program. I don't know.
Well, it's too late for that, because if you look at the new list,
We're going by traffic count also.
yeah,
Right.
but that
See-
wasn't there necessarily back when the
Not
old
then,
list.
no, the
No.
traffic count is new.
But there were probably roads on there that were more qualified. I don't want to get back to 179th and 179th Street, okay? Because the signups were giving away their right-of-way, or changing the right-of-way. These people were willing to do that. So I was just wanting somebody, with all the security we got, has that old list of PRP.
I thought that's what Mr. Lucan brought up.
I don't know, I don't think I still have mine.
There were, I think, 23 items on it, and usually I save that, but lately I've been going through and trying to get rid of this stuff and keep my nice, and I did sit with the chicken pickers. I sat and watched that whole tape, and read that whole file, and I'm keeping it here because some people think I didn't go to die yet. So,
There was something last night on the news, they've narrowed it down to 2 sites. Central County and Cloud County, I believe.
okay, good. Takes a lot of pressure off us, a lot of thought process.
Let me see if I've got that list here.
Did they name the sites?
Where you're looking, so we need Mark,
Yeah.
we're gonna do your,
They're down to 2
your
sites.
contract or your.
I knew you were at 3,
eventually.
but that's the last I
What's
heard.
David's title? Isn't that a wrong title now?
Huh?
You know,
He's currently the role of acting county council.
right. And, you know, like study on sewers, you know, we can do all the roads in the world. But I guarantee you, roads create houses and houses create affluent, and it has to flow somewhere eventually. We just can't, you know, it just, consent agenda. The road study needs to be broadened out. What do we really want to develop in this county? Closer to Wyandotte County, change the meeting dates, move on to allow the 15 mini homes, that's going to resolve itself accordingly. Capital improvement funds, no more anonymous letters. Nothing should ever be anonymous. I got an anonymous letter and I want to read it here and da-da-da. No. No, you don't read an anonymous letter, you shouldn't even accept it. So, 2 transportation systems in the county. Has anybody set up the time we're going to get together and Northeast Mental Health is going to talk to our people and come back with a report and say, no way can we ever work together at this time. So,
I think one of the things that Mr. Rickert did stop in on the that he's more interested in talking about that. Linda over at the Council on Aging called me immediately and said they're interested in it. I think what you have is an entity that's already looking into that very thing, the KCATA, which I think next week you're appointing a new representative
Right.
for KCATA. And I forwarded to the board just this week a survey that they're doing right now about transportation in Leavenworth County. So I think that's moving forward.
good. I like it when it moves forward.
You know, back on, being we're kind of in a discussion mode right now, back on these roads, PRP roads, improving the secondary roads, I think we should expand that to where the cities, you know, they have their little 3-mile radius.
Right.
I think that if a city wants to do a cost share on a road within that 3-mile radius, that should be looked at. I don't know how you feel, Commissioner.
Well, it goes along with road count also.
Well, but
Yeah.
your road count's going to be higher toward this, closer to the city.
Closer to
Right.
the city.
You know,
Yeah.
and if you can get more bang for your buck by partnering up with the city and improving it, and and then we've got roads like Mr. Starcher's out there that's not in the 3-mile radius. It's got 537 cars a day on it. So, but,
That's where Public Works.
and that's why we got to do traffic counts. We've got to go by traffic counts. But
See,
also.
the old PRP didn't have traffic.
Right.
No, I know that.
It's
Yeah.
just if you wanted to donate your land and it moved you to the top of the list, if you could get 100%.
That was an asset though, wasn't
It still is.
it? Yep.
It still is, but lowering the standard too by fixing these roads in existing right-of-way and not rebuilding them to an AASHTO standard. But roads like Mr. Starcher's there has got if it's got 537 on it now, what do you think it'll have once it's fixed?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's gonna jump another couple hundred cars a day probably once it's a
That's
good
right.
cut through.
That's true.
But anyways, anything else, commissioners?
No.
Well, this lady here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I do.
Ann Brockhoff, 21060 Loring Road in Linwood.
Mhm.
I just wanted to go back to the comment about announcements made about the Tyson project. Yesterday, Tyson did announce that it had narrowed the sites that it was considering. The Kansas Department of Agriculture has said that it's up to the communities that have been narrowed down to make their own announcements. Cloud County did announce that it was one of 3 finalists, and that was covered in the news media there. Sedgwick County, the media down around Wichita has announced that Sedgwick County is one of those 3 finalists. But as of this morning, no third community had stepped up to say that they were the third. So I just wanted to share that information so you're aware of what was actually reported and announced yesterday. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second. Voting.
Aye.
Aye.